Welcome to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast, your weekly news roundup of hunting, fishing, trapping, and conservation stories from around the Gem State. Hosted by Fish and Game's Public Information Specialist, Connor J. Lease.
And welcome back to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast. Not a ton of stories to go over this week, but we'll get to that in a sec. First, I just want to say thank you to those of you who've written in, texted me, or left a comment in response to our latest Shooting the Bull episode with regional wildlife biologist David Bernasconi. Several of you let me know that that kind of information is exactly what you want to get out of our podcast series, so it's pretty cool. Hopefully you learned as much as I did from that discussion and are excited to keep your eyes peeled for additional signs out on the landscape as we get into the hunting season. Last thing I just want to mention, we're bumping these episodes, Shooting the Bull episodes, up to every 2 weeks. So I'm sitting on a nest of dang near half a dozen future topics, and we decided to just roll them out twice a month instead of one. So hopefully you're excited about that. But just because we got some more podcasts in the hopper doesn't mean we aren't looking for additional discussion topics. Remember, I want to hear from you. You listeners are the sole reason we're producing this here podcast. And it's my job to find the topics, stories, tips, whatever you want to spend an hour or two listening to every month. So let me know. Podcast at idfg.idaho.gov. Now, this week on the Hook and Bulletin, we're celebrating a surprising preseason forecast if you're a Steelhead fan, a sad story about a moose down in Twin Falls, and a brand new archery range popping up in Idaho. But first, as we gear up for this year's hunts, there's another season in the midst we should all be mindful of. Wildfires can threaten public safety, property, and productive wildlife habitat, so it's in everyone's best interest to prevent them from starting. Carelessness with fire, unfortunately, is the cause of many wildfires, so people need to be extra cautious during late summer and early fall. Wildfire season typically lasts from summer through the first significant rain or snow of fall, so don't let a chilly evening or a brief rainstorm or snowstorm lull you into thinking the wildfire season is over. So let's take a look at some of these tips, rules, and guidelines to keep our woods and our wildlife safe from human-caused wildfires. First thing, know the fire restrictions. It can be a little tricky because you have to know who manages the land you're using, but it's the responsibility of the user to know if fire restrictions are in place and then abide by them. During a hot, dry summer, fire restrictions are highly likely. Idaho Department of Lands has created a statewide map to show current fire restrictions. If you're going to have a campfire, when and where it's allowed, have water and have a shovel handy. Keep fires small and manageable. Extinguish them completely before you go to bed or leave your campsite. And make sure your ashes are cold before leaving the campsite. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. Second, make sure you do your part. If you see an unattended campfire, put it out or report it by calling 911. Keep your eyes peeled for wildfire activity before you go into the backcountry. Some areas can be closed miles away from the actual fire, including roads and trails, so it's best to know before you arrive and find your area closed. To see the current fire map for Idaho and beyond, go to incyweb.nwcg.gov. That's INCIWEB.nwcg.gov. If you're planning a fall hunt, give yourself some options. Hunts are rarely closed due to wildfires for the entire season, but be prepared to access your hunt area through different routes, or hunt later in the season to avoid fire closures. And if you're an angler, avoid fire areas. There are a lot of places to fish in Idaho, so avoid areas near where there are active wildfires. If you've never heard of Stage 1 and 2 fire restrictions, here's a little cheat sheet for you. During Stage 1 fire restrictions, campfires are only allowed within a designated recreation site and within a fire structure provided by the administrative agency. During Stage 2 restrictions, no campfires, period. A question that we hear a lot is, why are fire restrictions done locally rather than for the entire state? Local agencies follow established, statewide approved guidelines for implementing fire restrictions in their geographic areas. The local decision-making approach is critical for determining the right place and the right time for fire restrictions. That's all I got on this story, folks. Remember, just be smart out there. Hit the link below to read Roger Phillips' article on our website, which breaks down Stage 1 and Stage 2 fire restrictions in a lot more detail. Next up, some exciting news if you're a Steelhead fan. Fish and wildlife populations are always surprising us, sometimes in bad ways and sometimes in good ways. This year's steelhead return is guilty of the latter, and the recent spike in returns is worth celebrating. Before the run had even started, a contingent of Idaho Fish and Game anadromous fisheries managers, working with tribal and federal fisheries managers, predicted a total of 67,500 steelhead would return to the Columbia River, including 55,600 A-run fish and 11,900 B-run fish. This year's return has already exceeded the preseason forecast, and as of August 6, there have been 76,000 A-run steelhead counted while passing Bonneville Dam. The 10-year average for the same time span is about 30,000, but includes some very poor steelhead return years, so the 10-year average is a low bar to clear. Steelhead runs are difficult to forecast from year to year. Here's Chris Sullivan, our anadromous fisheries coordinator, to explain why.
The majority of this year's returning steelhead only spent 1 year in the ocean, so it's similar to forecasting jack Chinook salmon, where we don't have any good indicators to predict returns.
All right, enough about A-runs though. How's the B-run looking? While A-run steelhead are definitely proving optimistic, Sullivan argues it's still a little early to determine how B-run steelies are faring. Typically this time of year, fisheries biologists need to wait another month before having a clearer picture. Currently, about half of the fish that have passed Bonneville Dam are unclipped, or in other words, are wild. This indicates wild steelhead numbers are up this year as well. For more information on Idaho's steelhead, check out our steelhead webpage. For this next story, we're heading down to the Magic Valley, where Kenzie Brady has some unfortunate information about a wildlife collision. On the morning of August 6th, Fish and Game enforcement staff responded to a situation south of Twin Falls where a cow moose had been struck by a vehicle on Washington Street near Park Avenue. The moose was subsequently euthanized due to its injuries. A local business worker with a crane truck offered assistance, and the moose was salvaged. Collisions with moose can be hazardous to drivers and passengers and often result in significant financial costs. To reduce the risk of such accidents, motorists are advised to be extra cautious during dawn, dusk, and nighttime hours when big game animals are most active. Keep your eyes on the road and scan for movement, especially along the roadside. At night, watch for shining eyes and headlights. If you see an animal crossing the road, slow down and look for more to follow. Be sure to pay extra attention in areas posted with wildlife crossing signs and obey posted speed limits. Motorists should report any injury collisions to local dispatch or contact 911, which will send officers to the scene. If possible, move your vehicle to a safe place and alert oncoming traffic with emergency flashers until law enforcement arrives. Idaho law allows individuals to salvage certain game animals killed in accidental vehicle collisions. To do so legally, you must notify Fish and Game within 24 hours and obtain a salvage permit within 72 hours. The simplest way to do this is to just go to our roadkill/wildlife salvage report webpage on our website. For more information on Idaho Fish and Game's roadkill and salvage policies, including reporting requirements and species legal to salvage, please contact the Magic Valley Regional Office at 208-324-4359. This incident serves as a reminder for all motorists to remain vigilant and exercise caution when driving in areas where wildlife may be present. Hit the link below to read Kenzie Brady's full article on our website. Last story of the week takes us to the Salmon region, where outdoor enthusiasts are celebrating the installation of a brand spanking new archery range. Archery nerds now have a place to practice archery in Salmon, thanks to Idaho Fish and Game and volunteers from several local organizations. A new archery range is now available at Fish and Game's Lemhi Hole access site in Salmon. And the best part, it's free, open year-round, and it's close to town. The outdoor range is designed for both traditional and compound bows and is friendly for archers of all ages and experience levels. Archers can shoot from 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60 yards at foam block targets. Crossbows and broadheads are not allowed. Other range rules are posted on our website. Our good pal Justin Williams, Regional Conservation Officer in Salmon, had this to say. Quote, "A huge thank you to the community groups and volunteers for making this possible. This will be a convenient resource for local sportsmen and women," end quote. The range was made possible by a collaborative effort between Idaho Fish and Game, local chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, Idaho Mountain Archery, and several community volunteers who donated both money and labor to help make the range a reality. In 2024, the local chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers was awarded a Fish and Game Commission Community Challenge Grant, which we've talked about here on this podcast before, that supported development of a local archery range. The range is a pack-in, pack-out facility, and our staff want to encourage archers to be safe, considerate of others, and help to keep the facility clean. If you're up in the Salmon area and want to check out this new range, hit the link below for more information, range rules, and anything else you might be curious about. That is it for major stories this week. Let's hit the rapid fire bulletin. Because of the current fire risk condition in southeastern and eastern Idaho, Stage 1 fire restrictions are now in effect on all Idaho Department of Fish and Game managed lands and access sites across the southeast and upper Snake regions. Specifically, this restriction applies to all wildlife management areas, lakes, reservoirs, and fishing access areas owned or managed by Idaho Fish and Game across the following counties: Bannock, Bear Lake, Bingham, Bonneville, Butte, Caribou, Clark, Fremont, Franklin, Jefferson, Madison, Oneida, Power, and Teton. Thought I was reading a list of the founding fathers there for a second. The wildlife management areas covered by this announcement include Tex Creek, Sand Creek, Mud Lake, Market Lake, Deer Parks, Cartier Slough, Sterling, Portneuf, Blackfoot, Georgetown, and Montpelier. Signs are being posted at many of these areas, but the restrictions are in effect whether or not signs are present. Idaho Fish and Game is also asking visitors to these lands to be cautious of the potential for fires caused by ricochets, dragon trailer chains, and other sparks. Fire restrictions will remain in place until further notice. If this is in your neck of the woods, go read Jenny Jackson's article for more important details regarding this closure. No listener-submitted questions this week, so that's all the news we got. Thanks for putting an ear to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast. If there's something on your mind, or if you got a question related to Fish and Game matters, feel free to drop us a line at podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Again, that's podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you next week.